There we go. I think we're good now. I hit the stream button on my OBS and nothing. It was not starting up for some reason. So there's like a start stream thing on YouTube that I had to press as well. So all right, let's get into the predictions. I don't know. We'll see. I think next week it's Topuria, Volkanovski. I didn't know if I wanted to put the energy. What's up, Tehran? How's it going? I didn't know if I wanted to put the energy to making a whole video and then editing it and all that for this week's card, because I wasn't too excited about it. But I think I may be wrong here. Dolidze, Imavov. Oh no, we have Hermanson, Pfeiffer. Okay. I mean, that's fine. I'll take it. And then we have Volkanovski, Topuria. I haven't looked too much at the other one. What's up, Thomas? Let's see. France at the top. Exactly. Let's see. All right, let's start with this real quick. I do have a lot of underdogs on this card. I'm actually kind of surprised. I only like the pay-per-view cards. Not a fan of the weak Apex cards. Yeah, I agree too. This one isn't horrible, but it could definitely, like, I don't know. I could definitely use some more arena cards. At least, like, build up the Apex a little bit more. I know Dana was talking about, like, adding more seats to the Apex, but they still haven't done it. So it is what it is at this point. I don't mind Imavov or Dolidze. I think it's an all right main event. The co-main event's pretty solid. They got Natalia Silva. Randy Brown versus Muslim Aliaskhab isn't horrible. We haven't seen Khizriev in a while. So, I mean, there are some people I don't mind watching on this card, but it could definitely be better. It's just the Apex feel. It kind of just dogs down the card a little bit. So let's get started here. Okay, I'm caught up. Thomas Petersen versus Jamal Pogues. I'm going Jamal Pogues. Thomas Petersen, I know he won pretty dominantly on the Contender Series, but it was Chandler Cole. Chandler Cole is actually pretty ass at fighting. That was probably like the easiest prediction I had on my Contender Series video. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, this dude is not good. I think he was on The Ultimate Fighter, so he does look familiar if you did watch that horrible season of heavyweights. He lost to Jordan Heiderman on The Ultimate Fighter, which I guess Jordan Heiderman's doing decent now, but Chandler Cole is nothing to write home about. Let's be real. Jamal Pogues, what I did look at on this fight, because I was like on the surface, I'm like, I don't know, maybe Thomas Petersen does win this one. We haven't seen too much of Jamal Pogues like takedown defense or anything like that. Jamal Pogues, looking into his resume, and I watched some of these fights as well. He fought Alex Polizzi, and I do think compared to, I was thinking in my head, okay, so Thomas Petersen also fought, I think I went a little bit too quick here. Thomas Petersen also fought Waldo Cortez Acosta, who I think is kind of similar to Jamal Pogues. I do think Jamal Pogues has a little bit more tools on the feet. Maybe Acosta is a little bit better at not getting hit, like moving around and jabbing to the body, like some of the little stuff like that. But I do think Jamal Pogues does have a little bit more weapons on the feet. He did fight a guy in Alex Polizzi, and if you don't know who Alex Polizzi is, I believe he is the wrestling trainer for Extreme Couture. You probably saw him a lot during the Sean Strickland fight weeks. I believe he is the main wrestling coach there, or at least the guy that they train with a lot to build up your wrestling for some of these fights. So he's a very good wrestler, and I thought Jamal Pogues had some really decent transitions, decent scrambles against them that I was actually kind of surprised by. So I am going to go with Jamal Pogues here. Thomas Petersen is pretty good early on. Like, he's going to maul you. But if he can't finish you and Jamal Pogues has decent takedown defense and can get right back up, he's 28 as well. That fight against Alex Polizzi was, in 2020? So that was about 3 or 4 years ago. So I think that his takedown defense is definitely going to improve. So I am going to go with Pogues in this fight. Let's see what we got here. My question is, why in the hell are they still even using the Apex? COVID has lowered it. It just gives them an excuse to make like a crappy card. It's pretty much what it is. Like that's the only way I can see it being the case. Like, I wouldn't even mind it being like, I feel like you can still fill an arena with this card. As much as it's like iffy, I feel like you can at least like get maybe like 1,000 people in an arena just to get a little bit of an atmosphere. But the 50 or 100 people that they have in the Apex is just not enough. So I wish they would just put it in like one of those little hotel arenas or whatever, like shorten the seating a little bit, do something. But yeah, these cards kind of bog down quite a bit. It's going to be a rough couple of cards. This card isn't horrible for an Apex card. It's actually one of the better Apex cards we've gotten recently, which is kind of weird to say, but it's still an Apex card. So let's move on here. We have Marquel, Mederos versus Landon Quinones. Quinones was also on the Ultimate Fighter. I want to say he was on the most recent season. I think it was like rookies versus veterans or whatever. I might be wrong. From what I remember, I specifically mentioned him because I thought he was one of the only interesting people on the show. Like, he actually tried to make it interesting with other fighters. So that was the sticking point there. I believe he came in on short notice against Nasrat Haqparast, which is actually pretty rough because Nasrat's a beast. But Marquel Mederos on the Contender Series, he is hittable, but he looked really good against Aliaskhab, and I thought that was a pretty impressive performance. He's really good on the feet, really technical. This could become a really good scrap, and Quinones definitely has a chance to win it because he did look actually a lot more solid against Nasrat from what I remember on the Ultimate Fighter, because I remember Ultimate Fighter, some of the rookies on there were actually pretty ass, so he must have improved himself pretty big on that Nasrat fight. It was on short notice as well, but Aliaskhab is 34, but has a pretty decent record, and he's from he's a wait, what is he? That he said he's from Russian. A Luxembourg? I don't know who that is, but or what that is. But I thought it was a pretty impressive performance. I think he's still going to be able to do pretty well against Landon Quinones. I think Quinones might be able to take down Mederos, but I think he's still a pretty good finisher. He's 27 years of age. I'm going to go with Mederos in this fight. Probably by TKO. If not, I can see this one going to a decision for sure. Let's see. Looking like Connors and Diaz might be the next fight. I feel bad for Chandler. I still think it's going to be Chandler and Connor. They need to start putting Tony Ferguson on an Apex card. No, you can't put him on an Apex card. At least put him on like prelims or pay-per-view. I don't know. I feel like maybe you put him on like you kind of have, if he's going to be on a fight night card, it's going to be in an arena. I feel like you can't really waste Tony Ferguson like that. He's definitely got a following for sure. I'm a Chandler fan. If Benoit St. Denis beats Poirier, I want to see a super fight between Chandler and BSD, even if that doesn't make sense. Timeline-wise, I don't mind that, actually, because Chandler... Well, actually, we'll see how active Chandler wants the fight, because I don't think Chandler's looking to fight for the title. I think he's more looking for money fights at this point, so if he moves up to 170, I think there's a lot more fights he could probably take there, but I think it'll definitely be interesting. Timeline-wise, I would say if Gaethje does lose the Holloway by some weird chance, I don't think he will, but if he does, maybe you do Gaethje and Benoit St. Denis, and I would really enjoy that fight. But other than that, I don't know where you would look at for Benoit St. Denis. Maybe you look at like a Gamrot or something, because Gamrot with a couple ATT fighters are moving up to that top 5. You kind of just want to eliminate a little bit. So maybe you do Gamrot. If he does end up beating Dustin Poirier, just like kill some time, and it's another, I think Gamrot's top 5 now, top 6. It's another top contender that can definitely help your resume, especially going into the title picture. So I think that's what you do in the meantime if he does beat Poirier. Even if he loses, I think that's a pretty good matchup as well. If they want to keep putting Tony on pay-per-view cards, at least put him on the prelims, yeah. Headline the prelims. I feel like he's never going to get really buried on the prelims. I don't mind him on the prelims at all. Yeah, I don't think Chandler would be interested in Benoit St. Denis. It'd be a really great fight, but I think he's looking for money fights. We'll see what Benoit St. Denis looks like against Dustin Poirier. If he mops Dustin Poirier, which he definitely, I won't say he will, but I think if he wrestles, he's got a wrestling mind. He's looking to win the fight and not an entertaining one. I think he can actually roll through Dustin Poirier in this fight, because he's really strong. If you saw what he did against Thiago Moises, that was pretty impressive. And Dustin Poirier's takedown defense is all right, but he can definitely get out wrestled relatively easily. So let's move on. Oh boy. Julija Stoliarenko versus Luana Carolina. I'm just going to go Julija Stoliarenko. I mean, she beat Molly McCann. If that's the level we're looking at here. Luana Carolina, I believe, got spinning back elbowed by Molly McCann and got flatline KO, like a really brutal KO. And Stoliarenko won against her. I thought Molly McCann was going to win that. That's actually really embarrassing, by the way. But I'm going to go Julia Stoliarenko because she beat Molly McCann and didn't get spinning elbowed out cold. So that's the basis of my analysis there. Um, Going on about underdogs for this card, I don't mind. I'm going to go Blake Bilder. He lost to Kyle Nelson, who I don't think is that great. Kyle Nelson is not that great. Jeong Lee, though, actually going into this fight against Yiza or Zai, how the hell you say his name, actually looked pretty good. I believe he had like a fight time of like 2 minutes leading up to that. He's on the road to UFC, 10 seconds, 36 seconds, 42 seconds, and then went to a split decision where he just got completely held against the fence, got out grappled. He is very slick on the ground. However, that didn't really come into play in that last fight. So Blake Bilder will kind of do the same thing, hold you against the fence, try and take you down. This is going to be a really big test for Jeong Lee. He's been out for, 11 months, so maybe he's actually been improving a little bit. Blake Bilder's 33. I'm actually going to go Jeong Lee. I'm going to switch my pick here. He's a lot younger. He took a year off. I think he's definitely been improving for sure. He's still slick on the ground. However, I do want to see him improve a little bit more. He got kind of tired out a little quickly in that last fight. So I do want to see what he looks like in this one. Blake Bilder definitely has a really good chance at winning here by decision just by out-grappling him. And I won't necessarily say out-grappling, but I think like positioning him against the fence, holding him there, controlling, I think that's the way you can win this fight. Alrighty, that was fun. Okay. Got a package, that's all. Let's see. What do we got in chat here? Chandler is getting old. He turns 38 in April. Damn. If I'm Chandler and getting skipped over at fighting Connor, I'll just retire. Yeah, pretty much. I do think what's pretty interesting, if we're talking about like big fights happening, Dana meeting with what's his name from BKFC, like the president or whatever. I think Mike Perry might be involved in something soon. Maybe for 300, they might add another fight there. I don't think it'll be the main event, but maybe we look at like Mike Perry versus Nate Diaz in the meantime. If they're doing Chandler and Connor, I don't mind that. Let's see. Whew. I'm a BSD fan. Can't agree, but definitely a good ass fight. Yeah, for sure. Let's move on. We got Pete Rodriguez versus Themba Gorimbo. I think I'm going to go with Pete Rodriguez here. I think Themba Gorimbo is not great on the feet. He does shoot really good takedowns. However, on the ground, when I watched his fight against AJ Fletcher, it just seemed like he's making a lot of mistakes. He got guillotined by AJ Fletcher. I know AJ Fletcher has little arms, so it is maybe a little bit easier to get a guillotine, but he was making a lot of mistakes in his grappling. Was getting... Like, he's a really good grappler. Like, he did all the right things, but was just getting taken over, getting put in bad positions just due to his errors. So I'm going to go Pete Rodriguez. We haven't seen too much of him in the grappling, but I do think he can get it done on the feet. He's a really good technical grappler. Oh, my God, these damn dogs. He's a really good technical grappler, and I think, technical fighter on the feet. I think he can really piece up Themba Gorimbo in this fight. I don't think Themba Gorimbo's too crazy good. Maybe him with the house and with all these things will definitely help him, but I'm going to have to go with Pete Rodriguez here. This is why we don't do more live streams. All right. Let's move on. Jesus. All right. Let's see. Pete Rodriguez wasn't doing that bad against JDM on the feet. I think when that fight first started, yeah, but I think JDM just was JDMing. I think he did pretty well as that fight went on. So, I mean, it was pretty competitive. Like, you saw how good Pete Rodriguez was on the feet and how technical he was, but I just think JDM's just not much better. It just shows how good JDM is. That's how you knew he was really good on the come up, when you saw the guys he's fighting like destroying these other guys on these other prospects. So that's how you knew kind of how good JDM was. Let's see. Charles Johnson versus Azat Maksum. I believe, was he on short notice against Tyson Nam in his last fight? Let me check real quick. Can't remember. No, he wasn't on short notice. He went to a split decision with Tyson Nam in his last fight. Tyson Nam's actually a pretty solid flyweight, at least at 40 years old. I know 40 is like an older number, but he's a pretty decent fighter, especially at that division. I think, especially coming into the UFC at 29 years of age, that's a pretty decently tough test to have. Charles Johnson has been on a 3-fight losing streak. I think at the beginning of last year, he was like on a streak of like a fight per month. So he kind of lowered the activity a little bit recently. I think he fought 8 months to 2 months there, but then I guess he's coming off a 2 months fight from his last fight against Rafael Esteban. I think Azat Maksum, if he doesn't try to wrestle here, I think he can be a lot better on the feet than Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson has really good takedown defense. You saw that in the Makaya fight. You've seen that for quite a bit in a lot of his fights recently. So he's a really good grappler. You're not going to really hold him or keep him to the ground. So I think Azat Maksum is just going to be able to outstrike him on the feet. I think the first round is going to be a little bit more competitive, but I think as this fight goes on, he's going to land a lot better shots. I can see this one going to decision. I wonder, yeah, Tapology says a decision as well. That's probably the way to go here. I don't think Charles Johnson, especially at 33, hasn't looked that great recently. So let's move on. Let's see. Jesus. My dogs are annoying too. I got 2 Boston Terriers. Yeah, they literally bark at anything. So it is what it is, you know. Let's see. Oh yeah. I guess I'll get into it after. Molly McCann versus Diana Belbita. I'm going to go Molly McCann here. This is probably one of the ones I'm going to get wrong as well. Diana Belbita is not that great. I mean, when I watch her fight, it's just... she's not that good. It's well, she does have a 6-inch reach advantage too. Molly McCann's not that good either. So I guess it's whoever has the better finishing ability here, and I think Molly McCann does. Maybe I'm making a mistake here choosing Molly McCann. They're saying a decision. I think a decision is probably the way to go too. They're just both not good. Belbita, I mean, it seems like she's just now figuring out how to fight. Like whenever I see her stand up, she's like always staring at the ground, like trying to hide her chin. It just looks so weird. It just watching it looks really weird. She's like looking at the ground, fighting like this, trying to hide her chin. It's I don't know. I'm going to go with Molly McCann. I think she has a better finishing ability than Diana Belbita. She beat Mariana Oliveira by decision. Hannah Goldie by decision. These are the people that Molly McCann would probably finish. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, she lost by decision. Yeah, I'm going with Molly McCann. I'm not going to say by finish. I'm going to say by decision because I don't think Diana Belbita is like... I don't think she'll get KO'd here because Molly McCann's not good either, but I think her durability is decent enough not to get finished. That's all I got for that one. Gilbert Urbina versus Charles Radtke. Gilbert Urbina, he looks... if he's going to get a higher level fighter, I think he's going to lose for sure. However, against some of these lower level guys, Orion Kosi, I was going to say Koske. Orion Kosi is a pretty good wrestler. Like the Kosi brothers are pretty good wrestlers. I don't know exactly the level of the wrestling collegiately or anything like that. I think it's actually pretty high. I don't remember exactly what it is, and I don't want to look it up. So, but he's able to out grapple Kosi in that fight, and I thought it looked pretty impressive. Charles Radtke's a little bit more of a wildfire fighter. He couldn't finish Blood Diamond, which kind of says a lot about you. So I'm going to go Gilbert Urbina. I do want Radtke to win this one because he's very interesting on the mic. He had he said some crazy stuff in his last fight, or at least some entertaining stuff. Kind of egged on Manal Cap and helped him there later. I'm surprised we didn't get the same thing from Sean Strickland in the main event, but I'm going to go with Gilbert Urbina probably by finish. I'm going to be honest. He's got a lot more tools. Going to be a lot more better on the ground and on the feet, in my opinion. He is hittable on the feet. He's a little bit light on his feet as well, but I am going to go Gilbert Urbina by finish. I want to say TKO in like the second or third round. I think he puts a beating on him, lands shots to the body. Maybe I'm wrong here. I am going to be rooting for Charles Radtke, though, so we'll see. Yeah, I did see that. I think I saw on like MSN or whatever the Microsoft Edge shows you. I think I saw it like last night or whatever. I don't remember exactly what he did, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he did retire. He was all right. Nothing crazy, but let's see. Let's move on. Aliaskhab, Khizriev versus Makhmud Muradov. He finally returns the fight. It's been, 2 years now? I've been wondering for a while where Khizriev is. I guess he blew up. That's what I've been hearing. I've heard he gotten like really, really big and got really fat. I haven't seen the pictures. I've been trying to look for him, but I haven't seen him. But I'm just going to say he's going to win against Makhmud Muradov. I'm assuming he has been training. I think he was injured. But I do think Khizriev's a lot better of a wrestler, and I think Muradov does kind of struggle with some of these higher level grapplers. And you kind of saw that against, not Brian Barberena, Kyle Bahayo. I know Kyle Bahayo's a lot more of a grappler than a wrestler, and Khizriev's more of a wrestler, just gonna take some positions against you. Muradov can definitely win this fight. However, I think the pressure of Khizriev is definitely gonna hinder his performance in this one. So I'm gonna go Khizriev. Muradov has looked pretty decent recently, so we'll see how that one goes. He did win the decision against Brian Barberena up at division. I thought he was definitely gonna get the finish there. I was kind of surprised he didn't. But I'm gonna go Khizriev. Has had some time off. I'm assuming he's been improving a little bit more. He's decent on the feet, but is definitely hittable. So we'll see how this one goes. Muradov will have a 1.5-inch reach advantage. It is a closer fight in my opinion. Maybe this is going to be a little bit more one-sided. I don't know if he's going to win by submission. I'm going to say a decision win for Khizriev, but I think Muradov definitely has a chance here. But I think it's going to be relatively one-sided in the wrestling department here. I think he's just going to maul Muradov in this fight, hold him against the fence, that kind of thing. At least be a little bit more technical, mix in his takedowns as he goes. Let's move on. One of the few entertaining women's fighters. Viviane Araújo's, I guess, is all right, or Araújo, however the hell you say her name. But Natalia Silva is actually really good. She's got some really good technique on the feet. She's pretty entertaining to watch. I know she won her last fight by decision, but she absolutely beat the crap out of Andrea Lee in that last fight. Has looked really good coming up. Jasmine Jasudovic is no joke. I think she's actually a pretty tough test as a prospect, or at least as an unranked fighter. I think she's actually a pretty decent fighter. There's kind of, I don't want to say call her a gatekeeper, but she'll make it pretty tough for anyone that's unranked there. So she's kind of ran through everybody, but I think she will run through Viviane Araújo. Araújo is a little bit tougher. However, she's 37. It kind of seems like she's on the downslope of her career. I know she just beat Jennifer Maia, who's actually a decently ranked opponent. However, I don't think she's gonna be at that top 5 level where she's fighting the Grassos that we saw like a year or two ago. So I'm gonna go with Natalia Silva. I don't think she finishes her, but I think she wins by decision. I think she just completely outstrikes her. She has decent takedown defense from what I remember. I'm taking Natalia Silva by decision. She's actually a pretty good fighter. So one of the few women's fighters that I do enjoy watching, at least. So I don't know if that's like disrespectful or whatever, but I actually have the UFC rankings popped up because I was thinking in my head, like, oh, how many fighters are actually good in these women's divisions, strawweight and flyweight? Because in my brain, women's bantamweight is actually horrible. So we need a Kayla Harrison. We need a Shevchenko to actually move up. I wouldn't mind that. Maybe Nunes can come back, but if you think when she comes back, she's going to fight whoever the new big contender is, and then she's going to retire again. So it's not going to be beneficial at all. So strawweight, you kind of have like a top 5, top 6 here. Marina Rodriguez is decent, and then anything under that, Amanda Ribas is decent. Anything under that, Tabitha Ritchie, decent as well. You have some fighters there. Flyweight, Shevchenko, Blanchfield, Furot, Chukagin, all pretty good. Macy Barber's decent. Amanda Ribas decent. There's a lot of fighters who are in multiple divisions here, but Natalia Silva's pretty decent. Tracy Cortez looked really good in her last fight. Natalia Silva's really good. I shouldn't say decent. Karina Silva looks decent as well. So flyweight is definitely getting a little bit better. So there's some hope there, but it's still a pretty rough. It's still pretty rough. We'll see how that one goes. Let's move on. Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikov. I'm going Randy Brown. I think he does a really good job controlling distance a little bit more here. And I think Muslim Salikov, I know he's almost 40. He lost to Nicholas Dalby, who's a pretty decent fighter. But I think Nicholas Dalby and Randy Brown are kind of at the same level as a number 15 guy, borderline, maybe higher unranked fighter, is what I'll say. Like, they're in that level, like fringe top 15, and then that unranked fighter, high unranked fighter level where they're gonna beat the guys that are not ready for the top 15, but the guys that are, they're gonna kind of run through them a little bit more. So I am gonna go with Randy Brown in this fight. He maintains the distance pretty well. He's pretty decent on the feet. He's a lot younger than Muslim Salikov. I know Muslim Salikov offers some of the wrestling. I think Randy Brown does a really good job at maintaining distance. I don't think he's going to get taken down in this fight. His last fight that he did lose to was Jack Della Maddalena. So JDM's pretty good. Beat Wellington Turman, who's at least training with Pereira, and you kind of seen his style take an effect on Wellington Turman. So I think that's as like on paper, prospect for prospect. I guess you can't really call Randy Brown a prospect at this point, but fighter for fighter, skill for skill, not a bad win against Wellington Turman at this point. So I think he does beat Muslim Salikov probably by decision. Salikov, I guess, does have a little bit of the wrestling, and he is a little bit more unorthodox, so will kind of give you some kicks and weird stuff like that, but I do think Randy Brown can just outpoint him to a decision here. So I'm going to go Randy Brown by decision. Let's move on. Let's see. Renato Moicano versus Drew Dober. I'm going to go with Drew Dober here. I don't like Renato Moicano coming off of a ACL injury. He's very tough. I think Drew Dober might TKO Moicano in this fight, and I do really like I like both of these fighters quite a bit, so it will be pretty rough to see, especially if Moicano gets really beaten up in this fight. I just think Moicano, who's going to be looking to grapple, is not going to be able to get Drew Dober down to the ground. Drew Dober is pretty tough, really big as well, and he's actually been looking really good recently. I know he lost to Matt Frivola by KO. People are kind of worried about Shin now because that was his first KO loss, but he's kind of still there. I was actually kind of surprised they ended it. I know Matt Frivola was looking for follow-up shots, and I don't even think they really landed, and Drew Dober was right back up to his feet. So that was pretty rough to see for Drew Dober because, you know, he takes a lot of pride in his chin, and him losing by KO is pretty rough there. But I am going to go Drew Dober. He looked really good in his last fight. I don't think he's fallen off any bit. I'm not saying that Renato Moicano has fallen off, but I just think the ACL injury being out for, a year, I think he's going to look a little bit rusty in there. He's pretty durable, and he's relatively hittable as well. So I think Drew Dober, maybe second round TKO on the feet. I don't think he gets, put out, but I can just see it being like a standing TKO. So I'm going to go with Drew Dober in this fight. Again, I like both of these fighters. This fight should be in an arena. Not sure why it's not. I feel like if this is a fight night card in an arena, you can definitely put it on the main card. If it's on a pay-per-view, you can probably put it on a prelim headliner or whatever on an alright card. So I'm surprised this isn't in an arena, but let's move on. There's actually the same thing with... Well, I'll move on. It's not worth bogging about it. It's just annoying with the Apex, I'm going to be honest. At least get some people in there, like 1,000. Like just 1,000 people. Make at least some kind of an atmosphere around... But 100 people is just not going to do it. I don't care to hear the coaches. I don't care to hear some of the shots anymore. It's been for 4 years now, so I'm kind of over it. But let's move on. Roman Dolidze versus Nassourdine Imavov, the main event, 5 rounds. I'm going to go to Nassourdine Imavov. Imavov does a really good job maintaining distance. I will say that he's looked pretty decent in his last couple of fights. I know Chris Curtis, that fight ended relatively early, but I think he ended up taking down Chris Curtis in that fight, which is actually a pretty good thing to have at this point, because Chris Curtis has a really good takedown defense, really good takedown defense. So if you're able to take him down, I think that says a lot about Imavov's wrestling ability. I don't recommend taking down someone like Dolidze because Dolidze is really crafty on the ground. You saw the way he submitted Jack Hermancer. I guess it was by KO, but he got him in a calf slicer that was pretty unique. So I wouldn't mess with Dolidze on the ground. He's pretty dangerous on the ground, especially in the grappling. But I think Imavov can definitely win this fight on the feet. Dolidze is not as technical at all. I think Imavov does a really good job maintaining control. Like, if he wanted to grapple, he could. If he wanted to maintain distance on the feet, play off his back foot and land shots on Dolidze coming in, he can definitely do that as well. I think in the pocket it is going to be a little bit more dangerous for Imavov in this fight, but I think Dolidze is going to have a hard time closing that distance against him, and I think that's really going to benefit him here. Dolidze, again, not too technical. He does have a lot of power, but he lost to Marvin Vettori on the feet. I think Imavov can beat him on the feet as well. I don't think he should wrestle. I don't think there's a cardio issue for Imavov either, because you saw that fight against Sean Strickland. I thought his cardio actually kind of held up a little bit better there than I expected, because there was a little bit of some questions about his cardio coming into that fight, because you saw that fight against Joaquin Buckley in that third round. Joaquin definitely did a lot better, and Imavov started tiring out a lot. So I think his cardio might be a little bit better than Dolidze. I think he's really going to hit up Dolidze quite a bit, and I think he's going to tire out Dolidze just because he's hitting him. Like, he's going to become a punching bag in this fight. So I think 4th round TKO is probably where I'd go for Imavov. I can see him like kicking Dolidze to the body after like punching him to the face a lot, and then Dolidze kind of just shutting down a little bit more. I can see the fight going that way, or maybe just hurting Dolidze and then doing the follow-up shots on the ground. I'm going Nassourdine Imavov by TKO in the 4th. That's what I got for this card. Very long card, actually. It shouldn't be too bad entertainment value-wise, but pretty solid fights. I did take a couple underdogs, so we'll see how that one goes. I think I went like 3-8 on my my last prediction video, so we'll see how this one goes. There's a lot of weird fights that happened on that last card, so hopefully it's not too much. Pay-per-views get me excited, yeah. Or those, like, if you see the UFC put a fight night in an arena, you know they're gonna stack it because they need to fill up that arena. So, and they like saying like they sold out some of these arenas, so you know they're really trying to beef up some of these. But man, I do think we're actually getting a UFC 300 main event announcement soon too, just in other news. But other than that, decent card for a Apex fight night. I don't mind it for an Apex fight night. However, I wish it was an arena. So I am looking forward to some of these fights on the card. However, some of them will definitely be a chore for sure, like Julia Stoliarenko versus Luana Carolina. That's like a piss break, shit break, whatever you want to call it. But other than that, Molly McCann, Diana Belbita is kind of the same thing. Prelim headliner there. Urbina versus Radtke might get messy, but I think everything else should be pretty decent here. Khizriev Muradov is kind of interesting. Natalia Silva's fun to watch. Randy Brown, Muslim Salikov, that could be a little bit boring. Hopefully it doesn't bog down the top of the card, but we'll see how it goes. Moicano versus Dober should be pretty fun heading into the main event. I think Imavov is going to look pretty good in that fight. So that's what I got for this one. You love the Pete Pogues picks. Yeah, those were some of the picks that I'm kind of iffy on too, but I just think Pete Rodriguez, being the younger fighter as well, I think Themba Gorimbo is like 33. Pete Rodriguez looks pretty good on the feet. I don't know what his takedown defense necessarily looks like, so we'll see what that looks like. I think we're going to learn a lot about these fighters in that fight, especially that one. Petersen versus Pogues, I guess you'll kind of figure out that one as well, but we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, that's my picks for this card. Hope you guys enjoyed. If there's any news, I'll probably make a video on it, hopefully. We'll see how that one goes, but hopefully we'll get our UFC 300 main event announced this week. It does sound like they're kind of teasing it a little bit, or that Nina Drama girl kind of teased it a little bit with Dana White. I think she's just trolling, though. So we'll see how that one goes. I think she said there's some video with oil or whatever, and if it gets 30,000 comments, they're going to announce a 300 pay-per-view main event this week. I don't know if that's true or not, but can't wait till UFC 300. Yeah, I agree too. Those pay-per-views leading up to are actually pretty good. Hopefully Paulo Costa doesn't pull out. I know there's a rumor about that for the Volkanovski-Topuria card. I think that's what it's on. Hopefully that fight stays on there. Hopefully he's not pulling out. That would be pretty rough. Other than that, those pay-per-view cards heading up, actually really good. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next